The future of your gaming PC has finally arrived, and it is right here in this 3-liter little box. Good afternoon and welcome to Turbo Tortoise Tech. If you're new here, I'm a useful piece of the KFC variety of WookiE XXXL. And next to me is what Intel calls the Canyon Beast. That's literally the product name. I love it. I think it's a perfect name because while it is a 3-liter Dan's case-esque, tiny, minute little thing, it's packing some of the best power and compact PC I've ever seen. Easily the best gaming experience I've ever had on one of these mini PCs. And that's really good because this is exactly what I said when I did the NUC 9 Extreme kit that I hoped Intel would do. And now they've just dialed it up to 11 and then they threw undercar lighting on it so it can make an appearance in the Fast and the Furious franchise later with Dom family. Now we must answer the Kellogg's question, what's in the box? Well, inside of here is a complete PC system with a GPU. Somehow. But let's talk about the chassis and the design philosophy and everything that Intel has done because it's kind of brilliant. Okay, they've taken key setups and add-ons that you desperately do need from the PC environment and then miniaturized it into this. So starting from the top, there are 3 fans, 3 80mm fans strewn across the top over here with a mesh panel and then a very nice hex grid on top of that just to make it look a little bit At the bottom is more mesh and on both sides is mesh. So for the side, for instance, on this side where you can see the GPU sitting over there, there's absolutely nothing inhibiting the airflow. They've done a good job up front as well. They've put 2 USB 3s and a headphone jack, and then something that maybe some of you are aware of or have seen is a memory card reader, so that you can take straight from your camera and plug it directly into there. It's almost like Intel knows exactly what this is going to be used for. And to further bolster that claim, we move around the back. You'll see there's a Kensington lock up top, normal kettle plug next to that, 2.5 gigabit LAN, very nice to have, 6 more USB 3s, 2 Thunderbolt Type 4 ports as well, and an HDMI. So if you don't put in a graphics card, you're just looking at using this as a workstation, you can. Next to that are the ports of the graphics card, obviously 2060 Super Mini from MSI. We know exactly what that is and how that's going to perform in general. So no, nothing out of the norm there, but the lineup and the setup and everything at the back here is really nice and compact and would make like one little well, maybe not a little, but one conduit of cables will come out all in the same place. So you can just wrap one like of those nice felt kind of or Velcro cable ties around that. Done. They've set it up so that once you take out the GPU and then the very cool actually channeling for the CPU to get its own cooling, which I don't think you're going to want to do away with. There's a PCI Express 1-time slot there, but I don't really see you needing to add on anything because it does have Wi-Fi built in as well. You'll see like 2 little cables coming out the top over there. They then go to an aerial somewhere in the nether regions of this thing, but it works and the Wi-Fi actually works pretty damn well. But they've got a little cover that sits over that section of PCB, and that's really the piece of the motherboard that you want to get at the most, which is it's very similar to a laptop where they've made modular boards like for the front and for like some of the other connections and stuff. They've made it in a modular style so that that board really is the heart and soul of your machine, and so that it looks like it can be replaced pretty damn easily. It looks like it's just a couple of screws and then that whole thing comes out and then you could replace it for another one or perhaps for an upgrade in the future. But inside of there you'll find 2 SODIMM slots. It's got dual channel memory support, very much needed for gaming performance and for single core performance. Thank you Intel. And then there are 3 2280 or 80mm NVMe derived support bays. We've put in one of the new PCI Express Gen 4s from the boys at Clev that does like 7,000 megabytes read. So don't worry, when we get to performance benchmarking and stuff, there'll be no bottlenecks there as a result. The thing that I really like about that is you'll notice they've put thermal pads over there so that those can be part of the heatsink action and part of the cooling system that already exists to keep those NVMEs running at 100% performance. big brain, top mark there. So the test bench setup is this. There's two 16 gig modules accompanying that 11900 KB. Then we put the 2060 Super obviously with that, and then the Clev C920 1TB NVMe drive, 7000 megas read, the Rastata, that's just ridiculous. And then obviously the NUC Canyon beast itself with all of its default. So the one thing is with this product is it doesn't come pre-configured, it comes as a bare bone, which I saw another review site say it was a bad thing. I actually really like that it only comes bare bone, because if you're buying a system like this, you're going to get it for a very niche or perhaps a very broad product requirement or perspective that it's, or working environment that it's going to go into. So it's actually better that it doesn't come pre-configured, because then you can either configure it specifically for that niche or for a much broader use case scenario. But without much more ado and any further gilding of the lily, let's talk about some performance. So single core performance is really evidently the focus of this product. If you look at the Cinebench scores, for instance, the only one that scaled with its core count and hyper-threading, etc., was actually in Cinebench R15, which is an older set of AVX instructions. When you go into the newer sets for Cinebench R20 and R23, then you see it start to peter off considerably versus its single core performance. But that single core performance is so viciously fast, it literally outran even the previous desktop generations of processors. Don't forget that little box that you see there and the cooling that you see inside of it, that copper block up top is all that is keeping this CPU cool, and it does run off a 65 watts TDP. Beyond that, games that require high level single core performance are absolutely fantastic. CSGO, for instance, the frame rate was almost identical between a 9600 KF that I had clocked at 4.8 gigahertz with a 2060 Super overclocked that was cooled as well by a 240mm water cooling kit. Almost lost in single core performance for CS with a 2060 Mini that has way less clock, like 300 megahertz less on the core, and with the CPU being cooled, as I said, by that single piece of copper, it almost beat it. And it does in certain environments. The one that actually blew me away kind of was Call of Duty. Now there has been some improvements and stuff to the game since I last tested it, so do take that with a pinch of salt. And you'll notice in games that are way more GPU dependent, the little GPU unfortunately does let us down somewhat in comparison. Not that you could fit the graphics card that I was using in the other tests into the chassis, because it's literally half the size of the chassis. Another really nice thing was actually the encoding performance. When I did a handbrake test, I got to just over 5 minutes, and some of the 16 cores that I've used average between 3 and 3.5 minutes. So with half the amount of physical cores, the encoding performance was not 100%, not 50% worse. It was like, say, 40% or 30% worse than the 16 core, which is ridiculous. It means that per core, this is way more efficient with encoding. And this is where I think that this product is angled and is absolutely insane at. I have no idea on pricing, guys. I have no idea what this is going to cost. It's probably going to cost 30K casual for this base system. Definitely not going to be cheap. But if you're video editing, using Adobe Suite products, doing encoding, gaming, single core performance tasks on the go, this will destroy any laptop. There is no laptop that basically exists that will be able to compete with this in those environments. This is also going to have more storage. It's going to have a better lifetime because the components are modular and can be upgraded. At any point, if a new graphics card comes out, you can just replace it. You cannot do that with a laptop system because it's soldered onto the board, unless it's Max-Q design. Of course, those you can swap out graphics cards and stuff on. But that's just a moot point. Anything that falls within the power supply's capabilities, check mark, it's A for away. You can just use that. This is way better than what I assumed Intel would deliver after the NUC 9 Extreme. I saw that, and it's more like boxy profile. And I was like, yeah, it's cool. It's got some nice little feature sets here and there. It just didn't quite grab me. I was like, it's a good starting point. But if it was improved in X1Z, this completely blew that out of the water. What I thought they were going to do and what they have delivered, this is just on another level. If you want to stream, game, do video editing, all of that kind of stuff, and literally have something that you can pick up that weighs, it's not the lightest ever, but you could put this in your carry-on, you could put this in a flight case and take it on the plane with you. That's the kind of size we're dealing with here. Because you can put a graphics card in, and it has an HDMI built in as well, any TV is effectively a workspace for you. You can plug it into a 4K machine, into a TV, even with the onboard graphics. It'll do anything. This box will feasibly do any workload you need it to do. And it's that big. Literally, it's like 30 centimeters across. Outstanding. Outstanding work from Intel. I think that this is a superb product. I have literally almost no notes. The only thing in the entirety of my testing that was a little bit weird was occasional random shutdowns. Now this is a pre-production sample, so it's a look at what they might be producing to market. The only thing for me to look at is the CPU temp. That's the only thing I could relate it to. I did see it on occasion hit as much as 100 degrees. I have seen other Intel processors do that, and usually that's when their throttling point kicks in, is at about 90, and then they do slow themselves down. This, however, didn't actually go under 3.5 in any of my tests. So that 3.3, it was actually 200 megahertz better than that. But like I said, I did have a couple of random shutdowns. But by a couple, I literally mean 4 in about 40 hours worth of testing. I did sit and play some COD and some Tarkov and, you know, some of the shooter games and stuff, and get League of Legends even, and it ate that. It was like 190 FPS. I was laughing at the game, actually. It's so strong. Like it's incredibly powerful. The single core performance is such that you wouldn't be able to bottleneck a modern GPU. You're going to get the same sort of performance from a desktop as you would from this. The size is, and the layout and the modular, especially this modular PCB, because this can just be removed from the system and you can put another new system in. It looks like Intel's setting up for this to be a modular part, which is amazing. So the chassis will just be with you forever, easy to replace. The fans, the hardest part I can see being the power supply. We'll have to see what allocation and stuff comes through from that. It's tiny for a 650 watts, so we'll have to see what kind of price and stuff they're going to ask for that. It's probably going to be like north of 2-3 grand. But can you put a price on mobility and power, especially if you're in a working environment? And yeah, okay, I saw like some complaints, maybe the skull logo isn't for everybody. You boring, right? You boring, just get out of here. Undercar lighting, it's Fast and Furious life. We are the Fast and Furious generation. Fast and Furious! Anyway, that's all I have for you in this review. If you have enjoyed it, please hit us up with a like and subscribe. And hopefully I'll see you on the flip side with something even cooler. I don't know how. I don't know what to do. After this, where do you go to from here?